my God, what is that? Oh my God, what is that?
Welcome to another episode of J Inclusive. Please share, like, comment, subscribe, and set your notifications on so you are alerted every time I upload.
New tonight, a man says two women kidnapped him at gunpoint and forced him into sex work.
Court records backing up the victim's story, and he's sharing it only on 13. ABC 13's Luke Jones is live at the Harris County Jail detailing those 6 days of terror, Luke.
Yeah, and what a terror it was. So far, the only charges are aggravated kidnapping, but this man says in reality, he was really the victim of sex trafficking. Masterminded, he says, by a woman who called herself Cookie, operating out of a North Harris County motel.
Like, it was really ghetto. It was scary.
A young man who still shudders when he thinks about all he endured. For almost a week, he says he was held captive in a room at the Regency Inn on Cypress Station near FM 1960. Forced, he says, to have sex for money. We're blurring his face to protect his privacy.
It was a lot of crackheads, like a lot of them, like a lot of sketchy homeless people.
A life, he says, he never imagined for himself. One the Harris County Sheriff's Office says he was sucked into October 18th. That's when they say one of the victim's friends, Esmeralda Pena, invited him to the Regency.
She said that she had a job for me, like she was gonna help me make some money because I didn't have a job.
Once here, he says he was introduced to this woman, Herbanique Forrest, although when they met, he says she went by a different name.
Her name was Cookie.
Cookie, he says, quickly said about signing him up for an escort site and told him he'd have to have sex with men for money. The next day, he says he saw an opportunity to escape and returned home. But just 4 hours later, deputies say a doorbell camera shows Pena and Forrest at the victim's front door, this time with an armed man. Investigators say they and Nixon Simmons forced him into a car at gunpoint.
Cookie started beating me, and she was like, "Don't I ever leave again? Like, if I ever leave, like, she'll blow my brains out."
For the next 6 days, he says he was beaten, plied with drugs, and deprived of food. At night, he says he was expected to solicit men in this Ross parking lot, although he says he only ever slept with one.
I knew that if I made them money, they would keep making me work for them. They would keep me around. So I just tried not to sleep with anybody.
Even so, he says the experience left him drained, and at one point, hoping Forrest would make good on an earlier threat.
Like a couple days in, I kind of wanted her to kill me. Like, I told her to kill me, like, just get it over with.
In the end, he says it was his aunt who saved him. October 24th, he says he was able to text her using a phone he'd hidden from his captors, and that she picked him up during one of those nights out in the Ross parking lot.
I was just like, yeah, this is not a good place to be at.
And the victim says he wasn't the only one forced to do this. One of the suspects, Esmeralda Pena, also beaten and made to walk the streets, he says. Right now, this case still under active investigation.
Recent reports indicate that 30% of traffickers are women, and male youth, regardless of sexual orientation, account for approximately half of all sex trafficking incidents among youth in the U.S. One study found that 67.9% of adolescent high school students who reported being trafficked for sex were males. Young black men, gay, bisexual, and transgender men are disproportionately trafficked. Factors that make them more vulnerable to exploitation can include homelessness and unemployment. These same black men who've been trafficked are often misidentified as criminals by law enforcement and the justice system, rather than as victims needing help, leading to arrests for masking crimes like loitering or substance possession, and a criminal record that creates further barriers to housing and employment, deepening their vulnerability. Black LGBTQ+ youth who may be kicked out of their homes due to their sexual orientation or gender identity are often isolated and exploited by traffickers who pose as caring friends or romantic partners. Traffickers use social media, dating apps, and other online platforms to target and recruit vulnerable youth, making unmonitored internet use a major risk factor. Substance abuse and untreated mental health problems can be both a result of prior trauma and a tool traffickers use to control victims through addiction and dependency. And finally, the data on male victims is widely believed to be an undercount due to significant underreporting. Stigma, gender norms, and the lack of services specifically for male survivors make them far less likely to self-identify or be identified by authorities and service providers. We are living in a time where jobs are scarce, job seekers are desperate, and predators are lurking on a lot of these career websites. Indeed just released a statement regarding its users receiving text messages or unsolicited calls from people claiming to be recruiters.
The Better Business Bureau is warning job seekers about a rise in hiring scams. They say employment scams are the third most reported scam since May, and many of them are coming from text messages and emails. Some scammers send texts claiming the recipient has been selected for a job, asking them to reply yes to confirm their number's active. Sometimes they even offer some form of compensation. Then after you give that information, they end up taking your money instead. Indeed Workplace Trends editor Priya Rathod is here with more on some tips on how to protect yourself, especially if you are looking for a job. And Priya, thankfully I'm very happy in my job, but even I'm seeing these texts too. So are there legitimate recruiters that do use text messages to find potential candidates?
Well, look, I think there's a couple of things that you need to be aware of. Legitimate recruiters, if they're reaching out to you, typically they're going to reach out via job platform, via an email, and they're going to have a verified and official email address. The text messages that you referenced that we're seeing right now, they're these offers where they're offering high flexibility, high pay, high perks, but they're not giving you a lot of information about the job or the company. And that is a big red flag.
So when you get an email from someone, you can look at the email address itself and see if it matches the URL of the company it's claiming to come from. How do you go about verifying whether a text you're getting is from a real recruiter?
Typically, recruiters are not going to send you texts unless you've shared your personal information somewhere. So if it's not a verified phone number, even as it relates to Indeed, there's 3 or 4 phone numbers that Indeed sends text messages from, and your phone will identify them as a text message from Indeed. So if you're not seeing that, most likely it's a scam. I would definitely beware of text messages. Recruiters are typically going to communicate with you, again, via email or via job platform.
And you talked about giving your personal information. Sometimes as we're going through the process of searching for a new job, you're asked for your information in lots of different places. So what are some tips on how to protect yourself here?
So there's a couple of things that you need to be aware of. I think one, we talked about, if it sounds too good to be true, then it definitely is too good to be true. Also, legitimate employers, they're never going to ask you for personal financial information or offer to pay you before you've completed any type of work. So that's another thing that you really need to be aware of. You know, at Indeed, we're aware of these scammers that are going out using Indeed's name, and they're not affiliated with Indeed in any way. And we take that kind of misuse very seriously. There's also on Indeed, we encourage job seekers to visit Indeed's guidelines for a safe job search and common scams to avoid, because we're putting information up regularly about what scams are out there right now, how to avoid them, and how to conduct a safe job search.
A few more tips from Indeed's website on how to recognize real messages from employers who utilize their website. Hopefully, this young man finds a legit job, along with anyone who is currently unemployed or may become unemployed in the future, because as of this moment, no one's job is safe when it comes to AI and this administration.